and let's do it.
I'm Professor Buitron, and we're here at Gloves Off, and this project was spearheaded by our dear friend Sergio Mora, and he has a project called Laredo.
LaRadio.net.
Laredo.net, which is basically a group of what?
Well, basically, it's a LaRadio network, and what it is, it's a network of talent. It's going to be a multimedia platform for Laredo talent. And basically, like, my thinking behind it is everybody is on the internet, everybody's on social media. Facebook Live just exploded. People before, when they would turn on the TV, now they're just scrolling down Facebook, watching video here, watching video there, reading something here, reading something there. And, well, there's a lot of talent in our community. And a lot of the times, a lot of that talent doesn't get a platform for that talent to be seen. Maybe because the way media is structured, like a television station is not going to, for example, give an hour to somebody who has a lot to say about martial arts, or a lot to say about golf, or a lot to say about basketball. And so now, with the internet and with the cheap technology available, relatively cheap for good stuff, you could produce quality programming and put it on Facebook Live, put it on YouTube, put it on the internet. And what we're gonna do is it's gonna be all centered around an internet radio station, LaRadio.net, the website. There's going to be, you open it and there's going to be an audio player, and our radio station is going to be playing. For example, you, Professor, will have a slot, maybe like, for example, today's Thursday, maybe every Thursday at 11 a.m. you do your show. So if somebody types in LaRadio.net at 11 a.m. on Thursday, they'll hear your show. If they tune in at 7 in the morning on weekdays, they will hear my show with Jay St. John. And we have a basketball show at Tuesdays and Thursdays, Mondays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Some guys do a show named The Swish. So you're going to be able to log on to the website and hear the shows. But we're also going to incorporate streaming video, which we're doing right now, because, I mean, that's the way technology is going. So we're going to have the streaming internet radio station. There's going to be an Android and iPhone apps that you can download and play the streaming radio station. But we're also going to have the streaming video, and that's going to be on Facebook Live. That's going to be on YouTube. That's going to be behind our members area. We're going to have a members area on our show where people can watch video instead of just listening to audio, or browse our archives. Pretend they want to see a show of yours from 2 weeks ago. They could log in and watch it there. So it's an attempt to bring all that together. Right now there's a lot of talent and everybody's doing their own thing on Facebook. But there's not one home for Laredo talent, and so this is what I'm trying to accomplish by creating LaRadio.net.
Well, number one, thank you for thinking of us, and secondly, everybody on Facebook are actually getting more alive and more conversational when it comes with news and new technology and so on and so forth, as you state. People are no longer looking at the newspaper. They're actually going on Facebook and finding out what is really actually going on. You see all these different points of views, and it's a lot better because you're not getting a slanted view.
Correct.
You're getting a view of what Americana is.
Correct.
Or the world. Because people now are talking to people in the Middle East and South Africa, South America, Europe, and everybody puts in, and you start seeing the difference that's out there.
Exactly. And so this is an attempt, for example, like what I think you will be doing. There's a lot of people that practice martial arts in Laredo. There's a lot of very accomplished martial arts practitioners. There's a big community out there. And I mean, before, when you guys wanted to get some exposure or something, you either buy advertising or you get 5 seconds on the evening news, or you get a short article in the newspaper. And also, that is obviously very helpful. I don't think that it's the coverage and the attention that your art deserves, you know? And so with the internet, martial arts in Laredo, for the whole community, they can get their own dedicated program, which is what we're bringing with Gloves Off and LaRadio.net.
And we will do that, We'll touch base with the different schools, the different, I know the majority of them personally, on a personal basis. bring in their athletes, because you have a lot of schools that are tournament. You have some schools that are more combative and they're into the MMA, into boxing and so on and so forth. Not only touch base with the martial arts, but also the pugilist. See the actual needs of what martial arts is within the community. Okay? How many people have done martial arts and are benefiting Laredo or Texas or the United States as a whole? We have a lot of students. I know for a fact I have about 23 students, past students, that are now become firemen.
Wow.
Okay, in the last decade. I have at least 30-something students that have become law enforcement in the different fields, you know. I'm currently teaching several from different fields from the state all the way down. Those issues are very tight-knit, and a lot of people don't understand, you know. People see martial arts as a hobby, not as a way of life. They see the different systems and they have assumptions of what Hollywood has brought forth to what really it actually is. So number one, you know, I'm thankful. I'm thankful that we can voice our opinions and our concerns to the community.
Professor, and I mean, just by being here with you in your, what do you call it? Is it called a dojo also? Because I remember I went to karate when I was a little boy, and
You know, every culture comes in. We here at Buitron Academy, and we named it Academy for that reason, is that not only do we teach the French martial arts, which is Sabat, that's what I do.
and that's what you teach.
Right. But we also teach capoeira, we also
Okay.
teach kempo, and we also have an eskrima club. And each one, in each culture, they have a different format for calling their training hall.
Okay.
In the French, in Savat, it's known as salle, salon, salle.
So this is a sal.
This is a salle.
Okay.
In Kung Fu, it's known as a kun. So Kempo, this would be a kun. But everybody always calls it dojo, and dojo is actually Japanese. It's a Japanese term.
Okay.
Okay? That's where we're talking about the assumptions and the histories
Yeah.
that commingle and switch, and what was once Korean in ethnic and cultural views are used by the Japanese and vice versa, or so on and so forth, you know? I think one of the major programs that commingled the martial arts together and people started taking it as assumptions was the old Kung Fu series with David Carradine.
Okay.
Which a lot of people had not seen, and all of a sudden that was a Chinese or mestizo, you know, you had a Chinese, half American man who, when he was young, he entered the Shaolin monastery, became a Shaolin priest, and grew up and brought Kung Fu to the New World, and so on and so forth. And you had a lot of little traditions that were implemented for the storyline
Yeah.
that all of a sudden became traditions into martial arts schools, and you see it now, and you're like, wait a minute, that's Chinese. You guys are teaching Korean. It's fun. It's fun to watch. Fun to see that cross mingling of culture.
And so, okay, I mean, growing up, you hear karate, you hear kung fu, but Savat is not one that is one of the most
Right.
commonly, universally known. What is it, and how did you get involved in it?
How did I get involved in
Yeah, exactly.
When I was 6 years old, we had just moved back, and my father was doing his residency here in Laredo, Texas. And when we were living, my dad said, hey, go play in the playground. Well, I went to go play in the playground. And I got my butt whipped, my butt handed to me. About 8 kids basically beat the crap out of me. The next day, my dad had me with my uncle, and he said, teach me. Little did I know that I would be traveling the world of martial arts. On one side, on the Buitron side, we're Basque Americans. We're Basque in culture.
Okay, like Basque, like
Basque,
Spanish.
Well, Spanish or French, Basque, whoever knows what to do for you. So my uncle had the system that they would teach, and he used to say, la cipota es para la calle y el box es para el ring. Boxing is for the ring and cipota is for the street. Little did I know that cipota is a Basque art, is an art that basically melded into former Sabat until later on in my years, okay? Yes, I did Taekwondo, and we placed it in karate school because we traveled the United States, and my dad would always stick me in martial arts schools, right? But I will always come back to my uncle. When we moved back here, it was must have been about 11 going on 12. My uncle got me, and it was, you learn how to box, you learn the sipota, you learn the foot patterns, you learn that defensive structure. I would always say to myself, how do they know how to kick if, the kicks were different, the kicks were lower, Sipota means shoe in Basque. Savat means shoe in French.
Okay.
Old French, not new, because now it's just so straight. So I grew up with that. I left. I graduated at a young age. I graduated, I was 16. I left, I was 17 years old when I was in Dallas. I was like a kid in a candy store. I started learning Shaolin Kung Fu, which I loved it, great instructor. And my uncle, just before I left to college, he said, actually my cousin, he tells me, what uncle teaches, Sipota, is Savat. Go look for it. No Savat. No Savat anywhere. I got involved with Aikijitsu with Sensei John Ayers, who just passed away. God bless his soul. He was one of the few that studied with Sensei, who was the founder of Aikido, which I got involved with. Beautiful art. At the same time, I met a man by the name of Keith C. Now, Keith C. was a Hawaiian, born in Hawaii, who studied an art that is Chinese in origin, but was basically forged in Hawaii, and that was known as Kempo.
Okay.
Okay? So I studied Hawaiian Kempo, what he called it, and he was a student of both Emperado, who was one of the founders of Gaju Kempo. So I studied that. And Ed Parker Kempo, he was the right hand of Ed Parker. And Ed Parker was the father of American karate, as many people say. And he taught not only actors in Los Angeles, he bodyguarded many, and it's a sophisticated system of self-defense. So I grew up with that, okay? And still searching for someone who will come down and train with my uncle and train with my cousins when they'll come down from Hawaii, or so on and so forth. And he comes down and he says, we have a friend of mine that was with me in the Marines. He lives in San Antonio. His name's Perry King, and he's trained with some people, a French guy that knows Savat in Los Angeles. So that's how we started. We got together with him, and Savat started flourishing. We started building clubs. We had a club here in Laredo, one in San Antonio, one in Dallas. Then I get a full scholarship from the French Federation to go train. So once I graduated, I moved to France, and I trained. And to this day, and I'm not patting myself on the back, I've been the first non-French to have a club of Savat in France for the history of the art since 1803. And I didn't know I had received the prestigious Silver Glove. I became the first American to receive such a thing. And we brought it back, and we started building. So we started building Savat. We passed it through the Texas Educational Department so it can go into leagues just like boxing or Greco-Roman wrestling. And in 1997, we formulated USA Savat, which governs the sports of Savat here in the States. And that's part of the Department of Licensing and Regulations, which is the Boxing Commission. So it's all about safety of the competitor, right? We have clubs now that has developed in Chicago, which I just came back from, in Dallas. We have one in San Antonio. We have one in Chihuahua, in Mexico. And in August, we're going to be traveling to Brazil to formulate the Brazilian Federation of Dance Savat.
Wow.
So it's sparked a lot, and it's coming out from Laredo, because Laredo, you can say, is a mecca of Savat.
See, I don't think a lot of people know that.
No, I don't.
I wanted to ask you, how many in the Laredo community, the martial arts community, how many different kinds of martial arts are there? And what is the main difference between all of them? And what, is it a cooperational kind of a group, or is it more antagonistic? My art is better than your art. What's the state of martial arts in our community?
Unfortunately, it's a ladder, what you said. Mine is better than yours, And that kind of mentality has damaged the martial arts here in Laredo. Even though you befriend everybody and you know everybody, they have that kind of, this is mine, this is mine. Everybody came out of one person, which Johnny Rendon, you know? And it's sad to see. But everybody has their own reasons. You see, I guess, like I said, going back to the movies, they kind of have a backdated mentality. Okay, you had a lot of, this is my art, this is your art, this is blah, 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 kind of barrio type of mentality that shouldn't exist, but
Yeah.
it does. About talking about different styles of martial arts, well, every culture has one. Every nation has one. So then you start dividing what's a style, what's a system,
Okay.
okay? A style would be savate, a system would be dance through savate. Styles of Brazil would be capoeira, and then you have two distinct different kind of sub-styles, which is Angola and regional. Karate is an Okinawan term, okay? And you have many systems of karate, Wado-ryu, Shotokan, Isshin-ryu, so on and so forth, which each one have its own mandates of requisites for the person to achieve. Kung Fu is a style, and you have thousands inside China just alone. You know, you have styles and sub-styles that are in systems that are village, families, so on and so forth. Term from Indonesia is known as silat. And silat, again, has a lot of different sub-styles and systems within it. Okay, so it's like, just like boxing. Boxing is a style. Okay? You have a jab, cross, hook, and you see it throughout the world. But the Mexican boxers use it different, and they have their own regionals, like the ganchos and so on and so forth. And you get the boxers from Philadelphia that they fight a little bit different. Then you have the Italians from New York that fight a little bit different. So, and then you have the European boxers, which fight completely different.
So is boxing as we know it, like the Canelo Chavez's of the world, is that a martial art?
Of course it is.
Okay.
Of
How
course
so?
it is.
Like,
How
so and how did it devolve into that sorry spectacle we saw the other night?
No, that's our. That's a different. Actually, I went for Canelo. I knew he was going to win. Simply, if it wasn't, it would have been wrong. But I knew he was going to win.
How about how about the obviously the most popular by far is the MMA
Right now,
phenomenon. How obviously that's completely martial arts, but I mean for the layperson, the person that just knows the boxers, and how is martial arts interwoven into all that?
Into MMA.
Yeah.
MMA has its roots both in catch-can wrestling of the United States.
Okay.
And as well as lucha libre from Mexico.
Okay.
And the jiu-jitsu and judo that came from Japan.
Okay.
And what melded together in Brazil.
So it's just a big melting pot.
Big melting pot. So when they come into MMA, mixed martial arts, it's not a style. It's a physical sport where all the different styles and systems can put their competitors in. And that's what people are saying. I train MMA. Well, MMA is not a style. It's a sport. You all are fighting under these rules. Who cares what you do? You know, you can do Mongolian, yeah, fucking if you want, but that's what you can do. You know, if you come from Kung Fu, Judo, whatever, as long as you fight and under those rules.
Because I mean, you immediately see some of the fighters are all legs and they're twirling around.
Sure.
Some of them are more grapplers and they're down on the floor.
Because you see it's a medium, a combative sport medium for all the participants of both pugilism and the world of martial arts to come down and train it. And you have great athletes.
There's been a lot of MMA events here in town. Do a lot of the local martial arts fighters, have they gone into the local MMA scene?
I know several personally, and they've done well. And all of a sudden they reach a point and then they stop. And they reach a point, why? Is it the coaching? Is it the training? Is it we don't have the dedication as another area? And I say probably a little bit of everything. Okay, I look at it, and I'm going to go back to boxing or savate. In boxing, just regular amateur boxing, you have regional, you have state, you have national and international competitions. International will be the Olympics, the Pan American Games, or what have you, okay? The Gold Games, or whatever they call them, the World Games that they have. When you're regional, I'm a regional coach. I can take my guys up to state. But once it goes from state to national, then you have national trainers. And that's when you have to let go of your competitor, of your fighter, and say, you know what, you're going national. I'm gonna send you to this trainer for him to give you a little bit more boost or bring him in to help you out. But no, the majority of people here, no, you're my fighter, you're mine, you're not gonna go anywhere. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they get to the national level and they lose. Or they become national, okay? Well, now you're gonna go international. You need to have an international trainer. And people do not wanna let go of their fighters. I know many families here, boxing families, and their sons would have been tremendous, but their fathers would not allow them to go with a professional boxer. Okay? So it's that ego. They killed that ego. I tell everybody in boxing and in USA Salat, because we used to, promote the art and build coaches, build trainers. Leave your ego in a shoebox in the closet. Okay? And these guys do not do that. Okay? They'll get a fighter in 1 month and he's out there already in the boxing ring. What are you gonna do, hurt the kid? Understand?
I get you.
And it's sad. And boxing, Laredo has a rich boxing history. We have four.
Yeah.
We have 4 world champions. We had Battling Shaw in the 30s and 40s. We have the 2 Canizales brothers. And we got Ferreira.
Yeah.
And people, whatever they have trained, they have represented Laredo. There's another one that's questionable because they say that he trained here, but he was born in Matamoros or...
Who's that?
And his name is Jimmy Wong.
Okay.
But I've never gotten the close because he was world champion in the 60s.
There's obviously a lot to talk about. I mean, just sitting here with you apart from all the other conversations we've had leading up to the development of this show, just the little time I've sat with you here, I mean, it's clear that it's a whole nother world.
Sure.
And so I'm excited. I mean, there's obviously
No,
plenty to
it's
talk about and extremely entertaining. What are you, okay, we're gonna do this once a week. What are you envisioning now? What kind of guests are we gonna be having? What format?
We have one of the major funnels into the martial arts is kids being bullied.
Okay.
Okay? Parents that do not understand what bullying is, they'll call the teacher and the teacher forgets or doesn't do anything or whatever excuse you want to place onto it. And I'm not saying that we have bad educators, but and all of a sudden you have the kid that was being called names and now being picked on and now it's escalated to a point that physical, and we've had those, God forbidden, suicides from Alexander High School.
I think that social media has just amplified that
Sure.
problem so much.
True. So when you start seeing the cause of bullying, and a lot of people come in, well, I'm going to bring in not only trustees, I'm going to bring in lawyers that can tell the parents, this is what you all need to do, the steps. And I will explain all that in the next show. We have issues that concern martial arts within law enforcement, especially training-wise. I have a lot of law enforcement students that go to the police academy and they come out and say, hey, we don't know how to defend ourselves. But we have a program that we have to take and it's mandated by the state or, quote unquote, the instructors here, and we can't fight our way out with a wet paper bag. How can you help us out? A lot of those different arts that we'll talk about the sport arts like we were talking about right now. We'll talk about more of the self-defense arts that exist. And we'll talk about the combative arts. People say, what are combative arts? Well, combative arts is a martial art that deals with a weapon, that teaches you with a knife. What are the dangers of that? Okay?
I wanted to ask you, I mean, this obviously apart from the art and what it entails. It's a business. You run an academy here. What do you tell a parent to say, hey, rather than your kid taking up a sport, basketball, football, to put him in martial arts, it will benefit him more? How do you make that sale in terms of telling a parent, you need to get your kid in martial arts?
Well, number one, you have to defend yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to learn how to defend yourself. A person that does not know will always be trampled upon.
Yeah.
And there's some kids that are better athletes than others, but that doesn't mean that they can't do martial arts or cannot learn, okay? Here's a question that I'm gonna bring out, and the question is a person, I'm gonna use the term wimp or wimpy,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna put the fragile or weakly. There's kids that are not wimpy, but are fragilely statured because of the age group.
Yeah.
They're just thinner, they're lankier, they're this, but they have more courageous than many adults.
Mm-hmm.
Understand?
Yeah.
Then, of course, you have the person that I hate to use the word wimp, right? But person that cannot sustain himself, and he might be 12-year-old that's 5'9", but if you look at him wrong, he'll start crying. Like Winnie the Pooh. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That exists. So some kids develop structure and develop physical nature different than others. But it's a mentality. Can you teach the Winnie the Pooh type of kid to the fragile together martial? Yes, you can. But you have to understand how and what type of martial arts you can. You can't give them a false sense of ego.
Okay.
Which a lot of martial arts do. You have to bring them up. They have to understand that this is physical. I have been teaching for 25 years. Actually, it'll be 26 years since July. And I have seen children change the last 2 decades and a half. I have seen kids that were playing frisbees outside, coming with their knees scraped, busted noses. They were jumping ramps with their bikes, to a kid now that is afraid to leave his phone because he's playing a video game. Understand?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that. I have seen educators, law enforcement, twist the word bullying. And now everything's bullying. There's so many types of bullying, but wait a minute, how about a schoolyard fight? How about 2 kids meet up and guess what? I'm not gonna back down and you're not gonna back down, and that's just part of our social structure.
Mm-hmm.
What about those kids? All of a sudden, both of them are bullied. Then you get the kid that's actually being bullied, has had and been fed up, defends himself, and he's the one that gets expelled. He's the one that's been called the bully, and not the bully. Understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you have a cross, how can I say, cross mixed of words that are, I don't know where they're coming from. In the last decade, nobody cared about bullying when I first came back to Laredo. And I said, we have a problem. We have a problem with our youth. We're a problem with our youth. It's no longer the barrios that we came up with, you know. You lived in this neighborhood to that neighborhood, and if you went from this neighborhood to that neighborhood, well, guess what? Something was gonna happen, you know? And to gangs. Now, gangs they transverse neighborhoods, you know? You have gangs that live in Shiloh and in Chacon, and it's the same gang. And when you talk to the police officer, the police did not care, did not give a clue. But now you have the problem.
Professor, we're out of time, but I want to thank you. This is going to be the first of many episodes. This is Gloves Off with Professor Buitron. And I mean, I'm very excited. I think that this was very educational, and entertaining.
And we'll have a lot more, you know. Number one, it's a community that matters. And martial arts, you know, as they say, are you doing martial arts for your ego? No, I'm doing martial arts because I love my community. I want to help out those kids that do not have the financial strength to come to the martial arts school. I want to help out the kids that actually need it to come to here. Or the kids that, or the young ladies that need that, and young men as well that are looking into jobs, not only law enforcement, into going into the Army. Here's one that, before we turn off and go on, it parted my soul the other day that a mom came in and she started crying. And she was crying because her young girl, who was 16, was beaten up by 5 kids, girls and boys. And she had a broken arm. Her arm was in a cast. And she was reading the Bible. And they beat her up outside of school. They put shame on her. They spat on her. They pulled her hair. I think they cracked, what she was telling me, they cracked the form inside the cast. They tore up the Bible and threw it at her. That to me was horrific. And we're going to tell parents how to deal with situations like that.
Much needed.
Again, the next time we're here, gloves off. Thank you.
Gloves off. Thank you, Professor. This was great, and we'll be seeing each other once a week.
All right, we got it.